150 yards, turn right onto Dover Road.
Indeed, Novak Djokovic has been re-detained in Australia.
Turn right onto Dover Road.
Court hearing on whether he can stay in the country or not. His former world number 5, Joe During.
With hindsight, maybe they should have said, sorry, if you're not vaccinated, you just can't come and play. Because now look what's happened. It's absolute turmoil.
Court documents released later on Saturday showed Alex Hawke, the immigration minister, chose to cancel Djokovic's visa because the unvaccinated player's presence could fuel opposition to the COVID-19 vaccine.
Continue for 1.5 miles.
First, Partygate. Here's Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner.
This is a culture that has been set by the Prime Minister. This isn't just a one-off now. This is not an apology. This is disgraceful behaviour.
Why do we need a report from a civil servant, Sue Gray, to know that something has happened that is wrong here?
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 7 o'clock. There are fresh allegations of regular social gatherings in Downing Street during lockdown. The Mirror says the Prime Minister encouraged wine time Fridays and staff had a dedicated alcohol fridge. The Labour leader is again going to call for Boris Johnson's resignation later after it emerged 2 parties were held the night before Prince Philip's funeral. Royal commentator Claudia Joseph thinks the Queen will be deeply upset by the revelations.
It was a very tough time for her, and she, of course, obeyed the rules. It's very disrespectful, I think, to be holding parties, A, when we're in the middle of a pandemic, and B, on the eve of her husband's funeral.
Number 10 says investigations into the parties are ongoing. From today, more people are going to be allowed at outdoor events in Wales. Attendance numbers will go up from 50 to 500 as part of a step-by-step plan to remove COVID restrictions that have been in place there since Boxing Day. From next Friday, outdoor activity will is being held in detention after having his Australian visa revoked for a second time. Novak Djokovic first had his visa cancelled on arrival in Melbourne last week when his COVID vaccination exemption was questioned and will appeal the decision in court later. A date has been set for Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing after she was convicted of sex trafficking girls for the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein to abuse. A judge set the 28th of June for her sentencing, despite her lawyers asking for a new trial after it emerged one of the jurors in her case had been sexually abused as a child. Andy Murray plays in his first tennis final since 2019 this morning. He's taking on top seed Aslan Karatsev in the final of the Sydney Classic. LBC weather, foggy for most of England today. Elsewhere, mostly dry and cloudy with some sunny intervals. A few showers affecting western parts later, a high of 11 degrees. On Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Lottie Morley.
Imagine having 100 chances to score a penalty. Or 100 chances to win $1 million. Well, lucky you, because this Friday's Euro Millions European Millionaire Maker will have 100 millionaires guaranteed. Yep, 100 millionaires back of the net. Euro Millions, sure. Play on app, online and in store. There are 100 Euro prizes available to be won. Camelot will top up prices in the UK to £1 million. Account terms, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation.
You may think that you've had enough. Oh, good morning, by the way. Saturday, it's the 15th of January. Andrew Castle here. Now, you may have had enough of talking about Boris Johnson and the parties and everything else. Okay, well, whatever you want to call it, whether it's hypocrisy, whether it's contempt, or any other word you want to use, I'm very happy to hear from you. I'm sorry we are going to continue talking about it because it's important. Why is it important? Because our leaders, let me rephrase that. The people that we vote to run things, okay? Because they're not leading me and they're not leading you. This is an absolute disgrace. They do need to set an example, all right? If you're going to put rules in that mess with everybody's head and destroy their futures and shatter educations and social mobility and God knows whatever, just you name it. If you're going to put those rules in, follow them. All right? I don't care which party, which, by the way, we couldn't get a Tory today. If any Tory MP is out there, back in the constituency, you've had a bit of red wine last night, and I know you might not love to hear...
In 300 yards, keep right to continue towards Tuns Lane, A355.
Anybody from central office, anybody anywhere who is a Tory, you're the governing party, would you like to come on and talk to us? Got a couple of Labour people on. This is easy times to smack to smack the Tory party. So come on, take your right to reply.
Keep right.
You're welcome to be on LBC with me. I mean, I'm not one of the vicious ones. Come on. I'm not James. I'm not going to, tie you up in intellectual knots. I'm just going to ask you what the hell you think you're doing. 0345 6060973. Is it time for Johnson to resign? Of course it is. Charlotte Lynch is LBC's reporter, and she won't be half as opinionated as I am, because she's a professional and balanced journalist, aren't you, Charlotte?
Absolutely, Andrew, but Sue Gray might need a bigger desk, as fresh claims were reported last night that Downing Street staff regularly held Wine Time Fridays throughout the pandemic. The Mirror claims that these were witnessed by the Prime Minister, who encouraged staff to let off steam, even though socialising in large groups was banned under his own rules. Now,
in a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road to London, Heathrow Airport.
And no matter whether Conservative MPs try and defend the Prime Minister, insist he can remain in this position, and not many of them are, their constituents are frankly absolutely livid. They've had to go back to them this weekend with inboxes full of raging complaints, many of them with heartbreaking stories of important moments that they missed because they were following the rules. These people in Kent have told LBC they're not impressed.
I think it's pretty outrageous. I think that they've let down all the people who did follow the rules, and perhaps lost people who had to kind of change their behaviour.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. He should have gone, he's always been a liar, and that's all there is to it.
Now, it's hard to imagine something that could look worse for the government. They've had to apologise.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Parties were held in number 10 the night before her late husband was laid to rest, and she was forced to sit alone throughout his funeral service. The former director of the government's COVID task force, Kate Josephs, who literally oversaw and formed the decisions to lock the country down, has apologised for having leaving drinks in her office when it wasn't allowed. Those two events will be covered in Sue Gray's inquiry, which is ongoing. Downing Street says the details will be made public soon, but a third of Conservative voters now think the PM should resign, according to a YouGov poll. The government's approval rating is as low as 20%.
Thank you very much indeed. I told you she was balanced and professional, didn't I, Charlotte? Thank you very much indeed. Ken Livingstone is a former mayor of London. He's a former Labour MP. Hello, Ken. Morning. Good morning. Good morning. This is an absolute own goal. The ball is on the line. All you've got to do is boot it into the back of the net. Go ahead. Right.
Well, I mean, literally, I can't recall such an incompetent Prime Minister in my lifetime. And I think his backbench MPs now realise unless they get rid of him, they're going to have a disastrous result at the next general election. They'll lose their seat. So I expect he's going to be forced out. And I suspect they'll try and do it before the May local elections, because they're heading for a disaster there as well.
Yeah, do you think they'll wait until that point? I mean, there are reports that MPs, and I've already put out a plea to any Conservative MP that has gone back to their constituency this weekend to get in touch. 0345 6060973. Ken, you'll be surprised to know we couldn't get hold of any yesterday, so we're still working on that at the moment. But there are reports of Conservative associations withdrawing their support from Boris Johnson and letting their MPs know.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I've been watching the news programmes last night, just ordinary people on the streets and ordinary Tory party members, almost all of them. I think they're saying, we've got to get rid of this, it's a disaster. And I think part of the problem with this, because I had a lot of dealings with it, because I had 2 mayoral elections, which he beat me in both. And what struck me very much was that he just always tells people what they want to hear, even when he doesn't believe it. I mean, if I think back, we had to debate, public debate for environmental groups, and he said, I'm going to carry on with all Kent's policies, I'm just going to do them quicker. And then as soon as he gets elected, he sacks the head of the union and winds it down and did nothing. I just think, literally, he's not got a political strategy, he's not some great plan. I think he just wants to be a famous celebrity.
Why did he beat you twice? What was the secret? I mean, was it, what is it about the magnetism? Why were we, in a way, some people will say, conned 2 years ago? Why did people bite it? I know. I'm going to offer you two words that sum up why. Jeremy Corbyn.
In every election, I've done better than the Labour average until I came up against Boris. And I think the same thing with Jeremy Corbyn. He had a brilliant, biggest increase in the Labour vote for 72 years in the 2017 election. Then 2 years later, he's up against Boris, he gets wiped out. I think people voted for Boris because they think he's funny, they like to have a chat with him in the pub. It was really not about politics. It was about, we really like him. He's much more fun than Ken Livingstone.
Yeah, it's interesting that I went to the mayor's office, had a quick briefing with him because we had a tennis event upstairs in the new building. Were you ever in that new building, Ken?
No, I've not been in the new building.
Yeah.
No, I like the old one.
Yeah, well, very expensive. But upstairs there's a sort of a conference area and a stage was set up and we were welcoming players, the top 8 in the world, including Novak Djokovic. And Boris was going to say a few words. And literally with 30 seconds to go, he had absolutely no idea what he was going to say. And he just stood up there and had people mesmerised for, 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, it is a gift, isn't it?
No, it is, but the depressing thing is when his staff have done all this detailed research and given into papers to read, he never bothers to read them, and therefore he just stands up, says he thinks what people want to hear, and he got away with it for years. But I think everyone now recognises this is the worst prime minister of my lifetime, and he's got to go.
The apology in the Commons the other day, what did you make of that?
Well, he had to, because he'd been exposed as this appalling...
In 2 miles, at junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23.
Stay home and isolate. When this came out, initially it was all denial from Downing Street, but if he hadn't done that apology, I think he would have been pushed out there and bought him a little bit more time.
Front page of the Daily Mail, don't know whether you take the Daily Mail, Ken. Do you take the Daily Mail?
No, not given what they used to write about me.
It says, Starmer, the COVID party hypocrite, pictured drinking beer at an indoor gathering when restrictions were in place, but guess what? He says it was a work event. What do you make of that? Beer in hand.
Well, I don't always agree with the Daily Mail, but I'm too there. I mean, it's literally, it's best that when I look at the Tory press, I've never seen them so hostile ever to a Tory leader before. And I think they just all realise they've got to get rid of him or he's going to wipe out the Tory party.
Well, I think for a lot of Tory activists, this will be the final straw. I think there was plenty beforehand, be it a net zero agenda which didn't seem to be costed, being driven into electric cars that cost more. There's a whole load of reasons for this. I mean, the defence of Owen Paterson, the national insurance rise. I mean, it just goes on and on. So I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back.
I think it is, and I mean, literally, when you look at what's coming in terms of price increases, tax increases, national insurance increases, we're going to end up with people poorer now, in real terms, than at any time since the Second World War.
Yeah. You think Starmer, Mr. Sir Keir Starmer, would be a better Prime Minister?
Oh yeah, I mean, literally, I think he could be our best Prime Minister since Clement Attlee, who created the welfare state in the late 1940s. Because Keir Starmer didn't come into politics to be a celebrity or be famous. He came in to do things to make life better for people.
Even though he shared a front bench with Jeremy Corbyn?
Well, yeah, of course. If you get offered a job, you take it. And then Jeremy Corbyn had to put up with...
In a 1/4 mile, at junction 4B, exit towards M3, M23.
For over 50 years. An incredibly nice guy. Literally, his problem was he wasn't very tough enough on cracking down on the Labour MPs who are undermining him and things like that.
Exit at junction 4B, then keep right at the fork.
Former Mayor of London, beaten by Boris Johnson twice, actually. Former Labour MP, of course. And, Ken, obviously making no defence of Boris Johnson. Let me just say that we had a political commentator, a Conservative activist lined up. You're never going to guess what's happened. No, guess what's happened. She's not picking up. Is there anybody that would defend Boris Johnson out there? Is there anybody that would... I mean, do you think we're making all this stuff up?
Keep right at the fork.
Contempt that we're all being held in. And it's not just the Conservatives either, it's by the establishment. This woman, Kate Josephs...
Continue on M25 south for 1.5 miles.
The former Director General of the Cabinet Office. Cabinet Office's COVID task force. The very body which drafts coronavirus restrictions and other pandemic policies. Drinks party. It's just a... Oh my God, I'm so close to swear. You know, if I swear today between now, 7:14, and 10 o'clock and I'm fired, then, you know, I'm kind of sorry for me and sorry for swearing if we don't pick it up on the dump button. I mean, this is, for me, this is a new lows. Left, right and centre. Kate Josephs, Chief Executive of Sheffield City Council now, broke the lockdown rules that she drafted. She was the boss of this stuff. It's unbelievable. Caroline in Birmingham will be next on this. I'll do a little bit of Novak Djokovic in a second. That's pretty sinister as well, what's going on down there. You might think he's an idiot, but you know, I'll take you through what the Australian government issued in the papers revoking his visa for a second. Right in the face of what an Australian court already said. At least I'm not living there. And I'll go through the papers as well. It's only 7:15. We're off and running. Get your calls in. Is it time for Johnson to resign? Where are the police on this? Anything you want. Anything you want. Between now and probably 9, we might do it for 9 till 10 as well. But you want your...
In 1/4 mile at junction 14, use the left 2 lanes to take the A3113 exit to Heathrow Airport.
From today, more people are going to be allowed at outdoor events in Wales. The world tennis #1 is being held in detention after having his Australian visa revoked for a second time. LBC weather.
Use the left 2 lanes to exit at junction 14, then keep right.
I'm Anne-Marie Walsh on the M25 anti-clockwise. The entry slip road is closed. That's at junction 3 for the Swanley interchange for emergency repair.
Keep right.
Road in Limehouse is blocked northbound because of an accident near to St Paul's Way. And in Greenwich on the A102 northbound, a car has broken down after Blackwall Lane. The inside lane is closed.
Continue for 1/2 mile.
Is closed both ways for emergency water repairs near to Norbury Hill. And on the tubes, no service on the district line between Earls Court and Edgware Road because of a fault on a train.
LBC.
Help COVID stop hanging around with trustedppe.co.uk. Order before 4 p.m. weekdays for same-day dispatch. Rated excellent on Trustpilot.
The barbecue bacon stack from McDonald's with creamy barbecue sauce, bacon.
In 1/4 mile at the roundabout, take the first exit onto Airport Way, A3113.
And lots of love. Only available for a limited time. From 11 a.m. until the 1st of February. Participating restaurants subject to availability.
Matt is hoping this shower will bring him back to life after an eventful night. You see, he's just bought an energy-efficient boiler from British Gas for just £35 a month, and it could save him £240 a year on his energy bills. So, the only thing Matt needs to worry about is...
This is my shower.
Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply. British Gas New Heating Limited is a credit broker, not the lender, and uses a panel of lenders. Representative example. Cash price £1,666. No deposit. Total payable £2,098.20. APR 9.9%. New boiler saving compared to G-rated boiler.
Boost your experience. Credit score. Boost your score. Boost it high. Space high. Boost your credit score to space. When Experian boost. Grab that boost high. Boost your credit score instantly. For free. Only with Experian. Free Experian account linked to your current account is required. Score increase subject to status.
In 1/4 mile at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Southern Perimeter Road.
Strain to our bodies. Now's the time to get things started, one way or another. To shop smarter, eat better, and move more. Getting started is easier than you think. For free tips and tools to lose weight, search Better Health. Let's do this.
Welcome to Love Matcher UK. Enter the details of your perfect partner.
Okay, so, ideal height and build. Bit taller than...
Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road.
Favourite food? Anything... hobbies? Being vague rarely gets the best results.
In 200 yards at Western Perimeter Road roundabout, take the second exit and stay on Southern Perimeter Road.
Engraved with our signature hallmark, Zeiss lenses. decision you can see. Available at Boots Opticians.
Andrew Castle on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
And a very good morning to you. Of course, we're talking about Boris Johnson and Partygate and the article.
Exit the roundabout onto Southern Perimeter Road.
Absolutely.
Continue on Southern Perimeter Road for 1.5 miles.
Not leaders. We voted for them. They're supposed to. They're supposed to set an example. If this is setting an example, it's embarrassing. Call it Whitehall, call it politician. Can't get a Tory on this morning. Delighted to take a Tory call if you want to come through. If you could defend Boris Johnson, or if you wish to tell us, having taken the temperature in your Conservative Association towards Boris Johnson, whether he should continue. Be delighted to hear from you. 0345 6060 973. If you were somebody that was fined for infringements of COVID restrictions, let me know how you feel about the fact that on December the 17th, Kate Josephs, the former Director General of the Cabinet Office COVID Task Force, the very body which drafts coronavirus restrictions and other pandemic policies, had a party 17th of December in direct contradiction of the very policies that she devised. She's now the Chief Executive of Sheffield City Council. It's just a merry-go-round, isn't it? They will be all over that Kate Joseph story tomorrow in the Times, in the papers, including the Times, no doubt. Caroline's in Birmingham. Hello, Caroline. Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
So I just wanted to say that during the pandemic, my auntie died of COVID, which was very sad because I was tall, monolistic, and I was in touch with leaders across the country, local government leaders, and in addition to that, directors of social services. I can tell you that they were absolutely on their knees during that period of time because of the demands and the changes and the challenges that they were being put in front of. Anyway, but the point is that Boris Johnson and his team, who were working hour upon hour upon hour, decide to have a glass of wine on a Friday evening. Frankly, I don't care.
Right. Okay. So you're all right with this. What about the 15th of May then? What about the 20th of May, the 13th of November, the 25th, the 27th of November, 10th of December, 14th of December, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th of December, and the 16th of April before the Queen said goodbye to Prince Philip, National Day of Mourning, 2 leaving parties at number 10 that day. None of this matters to you?
No, none of it matters. These are people who were leading our country, who were putting in more time than anybody else in the country.
How do you know they were putting in more time than everybody else? Why did I bury my father-in-law, having not seen him for 6 weeks? We had a mad mercy dash to his bed to say goodbye to him behind tons and tons of plastic, and at his funeral there were 9 people in front of me instead of a full house.
In 1/4 mile, at the roundabout, take the 3rd exit onto Beacon Road.
Anything but contempt for the people who set the rules and then broke them.
Because I don't think you have in your radio station, and likewise me at home retired, have absolutely any idea of the stress that was placed upon Downing Street and the leadership team of the government at that time. And today, I don't think anybody realises that they were making decisions that will affect our country for decades to come, and difficult and challenging. And no matter what they did, they'd be wrong. And no matter what they did, they'd be right.
Okay,
And,
so when they apologise...
Exit the roundabout onto Beacon Road. In 100 yards, at the roundabout, take the 2nd exit onto Stanwell Road.
I personally don't care. I think there's been a witch hunt out against Boris Johnson. And I think, to have somebody like Ken on the radio, I'd rather have somebody like Boris...
Exit the roundabout onto Stanwell Road.
I'm sorry you lost your...
Continue on Stanwell Road for 1/2 mile.
Well, you make a very interesting point, and I wonder if other people will agree with you. All the best. Have a great weekend, and thank you very much indeed for calling the first call this morning. 0345 6060 973. Great call to begin with. Perhaps there is a greater sentiment out there that Boris is sort of, okay, everyone's been under a huge amount of pressure, and it's all right for them to have a drink. Maybe you don't care. I think it goes to the heart of something, though, and I think it's called contempt. The establishment, be it Whitehall, and certainly the perception of contempt. But I may be alone. 84850. Send me a text. Sun newspaper this morning. Prime Minister's Partygate apology. Sorry, Mum. Boris Johnson saying sorry to the Queen yesterday. Well, it was number 10 actually, wasn't it? after aides held the Downing Street tear up on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral. Remember that picture of the Queen sitting there alone, following the rules? Now that's leading by example. Good God. Boris's Wine Time Fridays. This is a new one. I wasn't going to list all this stuff. There's going to be stuff coming, new examples of parties and get-togethers that shouldn't happen. I can't list them. I can't be bothered. Number 10 staff bought Bruce Fridge for a weekly rule-breaking shindig, and there is said fridge, the 100.
In 300 yards, turn right onto Hatton Road.
Events. Oh, I've got one like that. Yeah, it's just a little thing that you buy and you just plug in. Keeps the booze at 5 degrees Celsius if you wish. Daily Mail, Starmer the COVID party hypocrite. I put this to Ken Livingstone earlier on. Picture drinking beer at indoor gathering when restrictions were in place. This was in Durham in April last year. So beer in hand. I understand there was Zoom meetings either side of that, and they were taking a break from it.
Turn right onto Hatton Road.
Daily Express, devoted Queen deserves better than this. Here. Times newspaper, you're in the last chance saloon, the Prime Minister has warned. Who says that? Lord Hague of Richmond. Former Foreign Secretary and Conservative Party leaders saying that Boris Johnson's future...
In 200 yards, turn left onto Staines Road, A315.
He has to make sure he puts this right in the next few weeks, says Lord. Does he have that long, does he? Does he have that long? The I weekend, Prime Minister will...
Turn left onto Staines Road, A315.
Daily Telegraph, Plan B to be scrapped. Boris will be praying that on January the 26th he gets a big reaction when he announces that we're not subject to Plan B anymore.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Staines Road, A315.
Grassroots fury grows. Number 10 apologises to the Queen. This is the Guardian newspaper. Also on the front page there, Djokovic's Australian Open hopes ebbing away. That is a big international story that I want to talk about now. So they've detained him once again. He's been detained in Australia, the world number one, ahead of a court hearing that will determine whether the unvaccinated player can stay in the country. He faces deportation after his visa was cancelled for a second time, with the government labelling the 34-year-old a threat to public health. One element of this that I just wanted to...
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, continue straight to stay on Staines Road, A315.
Show Immigration Minister Alex Hawke chose to cancel Djokovic's visa because, in his view, the unvaccinated player's presence could fuel opposition to COVID-19 vaccination. So his presence could fuel opposition. Also in those court papers, it is said that his chance of making people unwell are negligible. But the Migration Act allows Alex Hawke, the Immigration Minister, to deport anyone he deems a potential risk to, quotes, the health, safety or good order of the Australian community. To call those powers wide-ranging is an understatement. Delighted to be joined by Barry Flatman, former tennis correspondent for the Sunday Times. Hi, Barry.
Hello, Andrew.
From a distance then, as we sort of sit here, I don't think you're in Australia, it's a total and utter mess, isn't it? What's your take?
My take is that rules are rules. Melbourne is probably one of the most officious cities I've ever had the pleasure of visiting. And if Djokovic knew these rules are in place in Australia, and that must, in his own little bubble, has to be aware that there is a pandemic going on around the world and feelings are very high. If he wasn't going to get vaccinated, if he feels so strongly that he didn't want to be vaccinated, then he shouldn't have travelled there.
But he had the right to be in Australia under a medical exemption to a COVID-19 vaccination, which was good enough for Border Force when he arrived.
Yes, but he's subsequently come out that he's told so many lies. Even
in 300 yards, turn right onto Shaftesbury Avenue.
Coming into land on the aeroplane, he lied, or as he puts it, my agent.
Well, Barry, I should just correct myself actually, but it wasn't good enough for Border Force when he came in. As a matter of fact, that exact same exemption was good enough.
Take the next right onto Shaftesbury Avenue, then turn left onto Roslin Avenue.
False declaration that that you're talking about is about the 14 days after the PCR test, did you travel? Or in the 14 days before arriving in Australia, did you travel?
Yes.
And he said no, and he blamed it on his agent.